Alright, welcome to today's vlog. I'm your man Akeem here, continuing my previews for this year's college football season, wrapping things up with the BCS conferences with the Big 12 Conference. This is going to be an outstanding year in my opinion with this league. I think this is going to be a competitive, good offensive year in the Big 12 Conference. We have two new schools, both TCU out of the Mountain West and West Virginia coming out of the Big East. Both these two teams actually won their conference championships respectively, and they're joining a nice, good conference which lost two schools in Missouri and Texas A&M. So they picked up two good replacements in TCU and West Virginia. Now I'm just going to go straight to the point here with all my key players to watch. Starting with my impact players, I got a lot of players to talk about today in today's vlog. Starting with Landry Jones, he's the star quarterback out of Oklahoma. He had a good year last year, 4,400 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, but had 15 interceptions last season, and that was part of the reason why Oklahoma had 3 losses last season when they suffered their 3 losses. He needs to drop that interception ratio and just get back to under 10 interceptions and get over 30 touchdowns this year, and he is definitely a Heisman Trophy candidate, one of the front runners this year to go along with Matt Barkley of USC. A couple other quarterbacks to talk about. Geno Smith out of West Virginia. He had a school record of over 4,300 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and I think he could do the same headed into the Big 12 Conference because it's such a big offensive, explosive conference. Another quarterback to talk about, Colin Klein out of Kansas State. He's definitely an impact player, a good all-around quarterback. He shows a lot of heart, and he can help offense wear and tear down defenses. He had 1,100 yards rushing last season, and he had 27 touchdowns as running the football, and that's an outstanding record. He just broke most touchdown rushes by a quarterback. I think this kid can sleep his way to a Big 12 championship and surprise a lot of people across the college football nation. At the running back position, I only have one player in particular need to talk about, Joseph Randle out of Oklahoma State University. Now, with Mike Lundy's offense, and they have a new quarterback, and they have to set up a good receiver to replace Justin Blackman, Joseph Randle's going to have to step up, and I think he will this season. 1,200 yards rushing this past year and 24 touchdowns. He definitely has a good nose for the end zone, and I think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns this season, probably make it back to the 20 touchdown mark this year. At the receiver position, I only have one receiver, Terrence Williams out of Baylor. He had just under 1,000 yards receiving last season and 11 touchdowns. He's going to be leading receivers for the Baylor Bears this year. I think he's going to have a great, outstanding year. And at the defensive side, Nigel Malone out of Kansas State University. He led the Big 12 last season with 7 interceptions, and I think he can have a big All-American season this upcoming year. And a couple other defensive backs need to talk about, Justin Gilbert and Broderick Brown. Both these two players are good defensive backs from Oklahoma State University. 35 pass deflects, but combined between these two players and 10 interceptions. This is going to be key for the Oklahoma State defense, especially with a good pass-happy Big 12 Conference. Both these two players I expect to have big years this year and probably wow some NFL scouts for the 2013 NFL Draft. And also, 2 linebackers need to talk about, giving some love for Iowa State University, Jake Knott and A.J. King. Both these two players combined with 231 tackles. Both these two players work well together. They probably have the best linebacking core returning into the Big 12 Conference. I think that both these guys could have outstanding seasons, ending their college football career together as seniors. Breakout players' performance this year, starting at running backs, I'm going to go with Dominic Whaley out of Oklahoma. He suffered a knee injury last season, but he rushed for over 600 yards and 5.5 yards per carry, and I really think he can have a good season if he stays healthy. Durability issues is a problem with Whaley. Another running back we need to talk about, John Hubert out of Kansas State. Him working along with Colin Klein, they could probably have the best premier rushing teams in the nation. I think he could rush for over 1,000 yards this year, just under last season with 4.9 yards per carry, and I think he's going to get a lot more touches and help out that Kansas State offense. And last but not least, at the running back position, I have to give a shout out for Dustin Garrison out of West Virginia. Now, I forgot to mention 2 other key impact players for West Virginia, Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin. Both these two players had over 2,400 yards receiving combined last season and 20 touchdowns, and I think that they're going to be key for that offense. And because these two players, they actually spread defense apart, and more defenses are going to have to focus more on Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin, which means more holes will be open in the inside for Dustin Garrison. He had over 700 yards rushing last season as a true freshman and 5.5 yards per carry. I think he can have a big year because of Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin at the receiver position, two huge impact players. On the defensive side, I have to show some love for Arthur Brown out of Kansas State. 101 tackles last season. I think he can have a big year, probably an All-American type season. He just needs to step up. He's headed into his senior year as well. Javon Harris, he's a good defensive back out of Oklahoma. He had 3 interceptions last season and missed 4 games, with Jamel Fleming, Frank Alexander, and Ronell Lewis all now to the NFL. Javon Harris is going to have to be one of the vocal leaders of that defense, and I think he can have a breakthrough season because he's going to be one of those star players to watch. And another player we need to talk about on the defensive side, Jackson Jeffcoat out of Texas. One of my Longhorns. He had 7.5 sacks last season, and all that came in the second half of the year. And I think because of that, he built up his confidence, and I think he is due for a big season along with Alex Okafor. 2 good defensive ends, one of the premier defensive ends of the Big 12 Conference coming into this season. I think Jeffcoat can make a run for Defensive Player of the Year this upcoming year. Also, I need to give you another breakthrough performer player coming out of TCU, Casey Pasho. He had just passed for just under 3,000 yards last season. I think he could be due for a big season in this Big 12 Conference. Now, overall, I'm going to have to give out my Player of the Year. I'm going to go with Landry Jones, my Offensive Player of the Year. Landry Jones out of Oklahoma. I think he's due for another big season and probably make a trip to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to actually go with Arthur Brown of Kansas State. I think he's going to have a better season than that 101 tackles he had last season, which was a good year. I think he can get 130 plus this year, probably catch some interceptions and wow some NFL scouts for the NFL Draft for 2013. Incoming freshman, starting with, I need to start off with Baylor's Javonte McGee. I think he's going to have a decent freshman year, get some more reps in that defensive line. He has a good quickness coming off the line of scrimmage, which means he could cause a lot of problems in the middle in that line of scrimmage. I think he have a decent freshman season. One of the top running backs, and not the #1 running back coming out of high school, Jonathan Gray. He joined my Texas Longhorn team. He had a Texas State record over 10,000 yards rushing. This kid is a dynamic running back, but this is a little bit of a tough situation for him headed into Texas because the top running back in 2011 is Malcolm Brown. He had 4.3 yards per carry last season. Also, Texas has Joe Bergeron, who showed a couple of sparks in games against Kansas. I think he had a big game against Kansas, and I think with all 3 of these players together, they could have the best depth at the running back position in the Big 12 Conference. But it's going to be hard for Gray to get more carries because of the experience of Malcolm Brown and Joe Bergeron. But I think they're going to work well together and split these carries to help out Matt Brown's offense and get back and becoming the top teams in the Big 12 Conference. A couple other players to talk about on the offensive side for freshmen. Wes Lunt out of Oklahoma State. He wowed Mike Gundy and during his spring practices. He's definitely going to be that starting quarterback since game 1 in this season. I think he's going to have a good year. Also, Brandon Shepard, he's a good receiver for Oklahoma State. He could be a good replacement for Justin Blackman. And both of these 2 players, Lunt and Shepard, they could build some good chemistry and help out that offense and for the future for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I think they could work well together. Now, my newcomer player of the year, I'm going to go with Wes Lunt because he had such a great spring practices. He came in and rolled early, joined Mike Gundy in that offense. He's going to start right away. I think he can boost up some stats and get a little bit more experience in this Big 12 Conference. I think he could be due for a good season as a true freshman. So I'm going to go with Wes Lunt for newcomer player of the year for the Big 12 Conference. Now, it's time to talk about time to give you my key games to watch this season. Starting on September 8th, Miami's going to be at home, Miami University. The Hurricanes, they're going to be playing against Kansas State on September 8th. That's going to be a great game to watch. September 22nd, Kansas State's going to be playing against Oklahoma. Kansas State's looking to wear and tear down that broken down defense who lost a lot of key players. Kansas State can definitely take advantage of that with Colin Klein at quarterback. He could be a sleeper for Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, by the way. October 6th, West Virginia is going to be playing at Texas. That's going to be an excellent game to watch. October 13th, the Red River rivalry. I definitely had to talk about them. OU against Texas. big rivalry, one of the biggest rivalries in college football history. October 20th, Kansas State's going to be playing at West Virginia. October 27th, Notre Dame's going to be going to Norman to face the Sooners. That's going to be a great non-conference game. November 3rd, TCU's going to be playing against West Virginia, the two new teams of the Big 12 Conference. November 17th, OU's going to be playing at West Virginia. This game can determine the Big 12 championship. I think it can be state between these two schools. November 24th, Oklahoma State's going to be playing at Norman to face the Sooners. Now, the Sooners were upset last season by Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State earned that Big 12 championship and actually beat Stanford in that Fiesta Bowl. And last but not least, December 1st, Texas is going to be playing against Kansas State. This is going to be another key game, and I think both these two teams, Texas and Kansas State, can make a run for that Big 12 championship. Now, my Big 12 winner, I'm going to actually go with West Virginia. Surprisingly, I do like Oklahoma, but they lost so many players on defense. Plus, they need to they lost a couple of key receivers in Jazz Reynolds and Ryan Broyles. Ryan Broyles is now with the NFL, and Reynolds is actually no longer with the team. So Kenny Stills, another breakthrough athlete, can step up at the receiver position. But and I'm not really sure about Dominic Welly's durability issues. He needs to stay healthy in order for OU to make it to win that Big 12 championship. So I'm going to have to go with West Virginia because they have so many explosiveness on that offense, and I think they could do big and wow a lot of people across the nation in this Big 12 conference. So I'm going to go with West Virginia for the Big 12 championship. Now, my sleepers for the Big 12, I'm going to go with Texas Tech because of Seth Dodge. He passed for over 4,000 yards last season and just under 30 touchdowns. And plus, Texas Tech had a big win at Norman against the Oklahoma Sooners, and I think they could upset a couple of teams this season. Definitely look out for the Red Raiders this year. Seth Dodge is coming into his second season in this offense. I think he can have another 4,000 passing yard season with that spread offense. I think they can do well with this in this conference. So I'm going to have to go with Texas Tech for my sleeper for the Big 12. Now, next time I'm going to catch you guys is on Tuesday to wrap all my previews up with all of the non-AQ teams. Thank you for watching today's blog from Franchise Sports Talk. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.